I was 24 when I first got really sick and having doctors tell me I would never get well. So I'm 60 years old now. And so I've been chronic symptom free for about 2.5 years, but I was sick for 34 years. And for 34 years, I was trying to figure it out.
My guest today is living proof that it is never too late to get your health back. After 3 decades of living with ME/CFS, she is now finally fully recovered. And she's here with us right now to share exactly what helped her finally get there and talk about what kept her stuck for so long and what she wishes she would have known earlier. If you're new here, I'm Raelan Agle, and this is where we explore real, unfiltered recovery stories from ME/CFS and long COVID. No sugarcoating, no fluff, just the strategies that actually help. I'm so excited to talk with Nicole right now. She's over in Denver, Colorado. 34 years, that's how long Nicole struggled with ME/CFS and fibromyalgia. She went from being a competitive figure skater to barely being able to walk around the block. She was bedbound at her worst and just drowning in misdiagnoses and failed recovery attempts. We've all been there. And then something finally shifted. Her story is such a powerful reminder that with the right support and insights, you can get your health back, even after decades. So let's dive in. Nicole, thank you for being here today.
Oh, Raelan, thank you so much for having me. It's like a total delight for me to be here and to be able to share about my experience, hopefully in a way that will help other people, like give them some hope, give them some tools, and just help them move forward on their own recovery journey. So thank you so much.
I am so excited to get into this conversation because with all of everything you've been through, all the years, all the things you've tried, like, what doesn't work, what does, like the insights, like this is just recovery interview gold right now. So let me not waste any more time. Let's get into it. Especially for all those people, as I was saying before we hit record, that there's so many people that have been unwell for decades and it understandably can start to feel like, I am never getting past this. This is it.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Yeah. I was 24 when I first got really sick. And, for me at the time, I thought, okay, well, that totally came out of the blue. But now, like, looking back, I can see actually I had some symptoms even as a kid. And I'm one of those like classic, psychophysiologic disorder or TMS or mind body illness like patients. I've got all of the personality characteristics. I've got a little trauma sprinkled in. I've got perfectionistic parents, had a perfect storm, and managed to keep myself sick for like what felt like forever by completely panicking about being sick and having doctors tell me I would never get well. So I'm 60 years old now. And so I've been chronic symptom free for about 2.5 years. But I was sick for 34 years. And for 34 years, I was trying to figure it out.
Okay, so I don't even know how we're going to go about summing all this up. But so wherever you want to start.
Well, so I think it's important to name that, like, I was pretty high strung, pretty perfectionistic, extremely driven to be excellent, to overachieve, to be super kind. I was an athlete. I was a competitive figure skater growing up. I left elementary school every day at noon to figure skate 6 days. Like, I was skating 6 days a week. And I left figure skating as a teenager and was a competitive freestyle skier, nationally ranked, Rocky Mountain, this, that, and the other thing. Really, really, really involved in that. Pushed myself in college, like got a master's degree from a 3-year program in 2 years. And by the time I sort of had what I would call my perfect storm, like I was tired. I was going to enter the workforce for the first time, which was really scary. And I was traveling and I got a virus. And I was climbing mountains, 17, 18, 20,000 foot mountains in the Himalayas, got sick and never got better, like didn't get better, and was bedbound, chronic pain, gastro stuff, POTS. Like, honestly, I'm one of those people that if you name a symptom, I probably had it in one way, shape, or form, here, there, and the other where. And, the illness went up and down, but the trajectory was down. And I think I worked really hard to try to get better. And I was one of those people actually early on that got a chronic fatigue syndrome diagnosis. It was only probably a couple of years in, which back in 1989 was kind of phenomenal. Like, it was only a new diagnosis as of 1987. But I was like, you just made this diagnosis up in 1987. That is just a load of crap. Like, I'm really sick here. This is like, you just don't even know what this syndrome is, and you just throw it at people. And I'm not crazy, and I'm not making this up. So I kind of threw the diagnosis out and kept searching, which wasn't great for my nervous system. And as we know, I guess what I'll say is out of the gate is that regulating our nervous system is like that, and having hope is like the number one thing that we can do to support our recovery. And I had doctors saying, this is what you have, you're never going to get better, and you probably have these autoimmune diseases on top of it, and maybe a brain tumor, and this and that and the other thing, and you're never going to get well because you just don't get where there's no cure. And it was like, I felt, just despair, hopeless. I was an athlete and couldn't do squat. And it was really hard, really, 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 really hard for many years. And I think, it's funny, I credit my recovery in some ways to never giving up to find a way to heal. But on the other hand, I credit staying sick with never giving up and being relentlessly pursuing a fix and a healing journey and a cure, if that makes any sense, because I was really panicked about it for 30 years. And I think I kept myself in a state of fight or flight and panic around the illness, which made it really hard to get well, if that makes sense. So I didn't give up looking, but on the other hand, I wasn't going about it in a regulated way. And it wasn't until I was able to find some hope, which I didn't have. And I didn't have it, and honestly, until I started watching recovery stories on your channel. And I want to credit you for that and to thank you for that and for all of the work that you've done to help people in our community, because most of us were told that there's no hope and that there is no cure and that there is no way out. And it wasn't until I started seeing that people could recover that I thought, well, perhaps that's possible for me.
Quick interruption. If you're working on your recovery from chronic fatigue syndrome or long COVID and know or strongly suspect that brain retraining and nervous system regulation will be a key part of your recovery process, and you'd like to learn more about this, you can join the completely free 5-day brain training course linked in this video's description. No credit card required, no strings attached, just key information and strategies delivered straight to your inbox to help propel your journey forward. You can use the link pinned in the comments below and also in this video's description to sign up.
And it also wasn't until I was finally accepting that I was sick that I could start to recover, if that makes sense. Like, okay, I'm sick. So if I'm sick, let's just be sick, and then let's see how much life I can squeeze into that. So if I'm sick, that must mean I need to rest. For 30 years, there was no rest. There was okay, well, if I'm going to be sick for the rest of my life, I might as well do as much as I can do, because I have nothing to lose and I'm going to stay sick anyway. So I might as well make the most of what I have. And so there was no intentional resting. I did as much as I could with as much as I had all the time, which isn't a healthy way to live. I was a professor, I had twins, I was busy.
So much to unpack there. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I was just off camera. I was saying people can't handle long videos, so we try to keep these shorter. And all I'm thinking is we need this to be at least 8 hours. There is so much to talk about here. So I can only imagine many of us were very busy when these conditions came on, but you were at a whole other level beyond virtually anyone that I've interviewed. So that had to feel like slamming into a brick wall. I can't imagine the shock of it. And I love how you pointed out how exactly what we need is what most of us aren't getting, unfortunately, from the conventional medical system. We need hope and we need nervous system regulation. And we're told we don't know what's going on, or there's nothing wrong, or you have this syndrome, but you're never going to get better.
Right.
So it's almost like if someone went out of their way to give us the worst possible thing for us, unintentionally, this is what we get.
Yeah.
Yeah. What sorts of things did you try over the years that were not helpful?
Well, the list is long. Honestly, everything under the sun, supplements, every different food plan, tons of medication, a lot of immune modifying things, some painkillers, antidepressants. There's no question that being sick caused me to be depressed. And the doctor's like, well, you're just depressed. That's why you have these symptoms. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm depressed because I have these symptoms. Not like I'm not, not like the depression wasn't driving the disease or the illness. The illness was driving the depression. And like I was dying to get out in the world. I was dying to do things. Like when we're depressed, we don't want to do anything. Like it's really, really, really different. So I tried, I mean, it's crazy stuff like, I don't know, colonics and weird fetid forest remains from the Chinese doctors. Like I was drinking her awful tinctures and teas, and it was so gross. And I was gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free for years and years and years and years because I was falsely attributing my symptoms to food sensitivities that were just weird associations that my brain had made. But once I started to get well, everything, all of that stuff just totally faded away. I mean, I saw so many doctors and so many specialists, and I had a rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis, I had a lupus diagnosis, I had there's a multiple autoimmune disease diagnosis that combines a whole bunch of, and what we know about the nervous system is that if we're living in fight or flight, if we're living chronically stressed, whether it's because of the way we're wired or we have trauma as children that keeps us hypervigilant and afraid and looking for threat, the immune system's not going to function well, and it is going to do nutty things. It is going to create inflammation. It is going to perceive healthy tissue for non-healthy tissue. And these things kind of snowball, right? Like the body gets really confused. It gets really confused. And, we even know from studies with animals, like if we take a rat and it's got an injured, like we injure its limb, like it's only a matter of time if we keep stimulating the injury, meaning the rat keeps perceiving pain, that the pain's going to morph and it's going to move to different parts of its body, and it's going to start to act like the other limb is hurt too. So everything gets really confused. Really confused. But what we do know about how we work as people and about the human body is that if we can get out of our own way and we can allow the nervous system to come into homeostasis, like not all sympathetic, meaning not all fight or flight, but being able to oscillate really naturally between rest and digest and fight or flight when we need to and not get stuck on either end, these things are going to calm down. The immune system's going to start working well. Our neurology is going to start working well again. Our GI tract is going to calm down because the body is designed to work well, but it's not designed to be running from the bear or the tiger or the perceived bear or the tiger 24/7. We can't function like that. And for us with these conditions, they ruin our lives, and we do get panicked. I got really panicked. I'm like 24 years old at the time. Like, this is going to take away all my athletics, all the things I love. I love to move my body. It's going to ruin my life. My life's going to be horrible. I'm going to end up in a wheelchair. Doctors told me that all the time. And that was terrifying. And the need to fix, like the need to make things well, the need to feel better, that just reinforces to my brain that there is a problem. And there was a problem, but the problem fed upon itself and was like a downward spiral.
You brought up something really important, something that I think understandably gets really confusing for people, because we talk about nervous system regulation and symptoms being caused by our brain and our nervous system, and it makes it sound like they're almost imaginary. And we say, no, 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 you are feeling them. But it's not just feeling them. The brain and nervous system can cause real physical changes in the body. It can change your blood flow, your heart rate, it can decrease oxygen to your muscles and cause pain. It can do anything and everything, because people understandably get confused. Like, but no, but there are some very real physical, measurable things happening in my body. So this can't have anything to do with my nervous system or brain retraining. So it's just you can see why we're all struggling to figure out, like, does this apply to me? What is happening? I don't understand. My doctor isn't saying anything about any of this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
It's true. It's true. And like anytime we feel a sensation in our body, it doesn't matter if we are one of those people who are sort of like sensitive to developing psychophysiologic disorders, right? Because they do rove around, we can develop a whole bunch of them. But anytime anybody develops a sensation in their body, like it makes sense to think about, okay, what thought was I just thinking? Or what happened to me yesterday? Or what am I saying yes to in my life that I really want to be saying no to? Or what's happening tomorrow? Because anytime our system perceives a threat, anything that stirs us up, it makes our whole system more sensitive to all physical stimuli and all of our senses. And so it makes sense that rather than panic and think, oh, what did I injure or what's wrong with me? We should probably be taking a look at, well, what's going on with me actually, and what might be causing my system to feel threatened.
Yeah, I interviewed Dr. Howard Schubiner, who many know is just a leader and an expert in this field. And it really helped me understand when he said emotional threats and physical threats trigger the exact same neural pathways in the brain. So if it's an emotional threat, a stress, grief, shame, fear, whatever, it sets off the same pathways as like a person chasing you with a gun. And our body perceives it the same way because we think, oh, like how could emotions be that scary? But to our brain and our nervous system, they are a threat like any other threat. And they use those same tools that they have at their disposal, which are a whole bunch of symptoms to get your attention. Like something's wrong, danger.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, Dr. Schubiner, he's an amazing human being. And I had the pleasure of being able to study with him when I started to feel better. And it was just so wonderful how he was able to simplify all of this in a way that really took Dr. Sarno's work to the next level. And I just so grateful for, how he's helped all of us, whether it's through his books or his talks or his website, like move this information forward for people. I think I feel so grateful to all of the pioneers, everybody, the people you interview on your channel or whatever, because, this is information that everybody needs to have, but we don't have it. We don't have access to it. And, thank you for spreading the word.
I can only imagine what it was like when Dr. John Sarno was talking about this. Because even 5 years ago when I started this channel and people started talking about this, I say this all the time, because I would get my nervous system would go crazy because like people are going to come at me in the comments and just be so angry. So 5 years ago. Yeah. So in his time, how brave he was to be like, despite everyone telling me I'm crazy, I see this to be true. And I'm going to keep doing this, keep researching, keep practicing this way.
Exactly. And what he was doing was paying attention. He was actually listening to his clients and seeing what was going on. And, I think it's hard nowadays with our medical system being the way that it is. They have, this amount of time to spend with each client, and all of the medical disciplines are very, very, very siloed. So we don't have people who are looking at people from a systemic perspective, and we have to be bringing the mind and the body together. We know that if we're just stewing in negative thinking, it's going to affect our physiology. And similarly, if we're just abusing our bodies, that it's going to affect the way that we think. And like, we know this to be true. And yet somehow when we get an illness or we don't feel well, all of that thinking goes out the window, and we're so ready to be like, to accept that, I don't know, that a medication is going to fix the problem, and not look at ourselves as an ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's quite suspect that we have these 27 or 47 different symptoms all over our body, that we're having this multi-systemic full body shutdown, which can happen, but statistically speaking is exceedingly rare. So when you look at something like the brain and the nervous system that control all of that, it actually does make sense, but it does take a while to get there. So I wonder, how did you get there? How did you go from trying all these things that weren't working to getting onto this path of, wait, I'm seeing a different picture here?
It took me a really long time. And, it's funny, I was a somatic psychology professor. I in the graduate level. And I think like what's nutty for me is like, I actually do this work like as a professional. And I kind of think we teach what we most have to learn, if that makes any sense at all. Like it took me forever to put it together for myself. And I think, the first person that helped me was Sarno, and like I was able to make some really great progress with some of my symptoms that like felt like they could align with what are the things that he was teaching. And then other symptoms were way more seductive and would draw me. They'd be like red herrings, or they'd draw me back into the medical profession, and I would be seduced into thinking, oh, I have this new injury, or I have this new problem, or it's like I could hang on to it for a little while, and then I would get like a symptom imperative would come up, and I'd be like, oh no, this is a real problem here, boy. Can't possibly be a mind body problem. Like this couldn't possibly be related to my nervous system. This is an athletic injury, or, whatever. And so it was a very seductive, probably 10 years. And please don't despair if you're hearing this and you are like, heck, I don't have 10 years to be ill. Like, don't worry, you can get well. Like, honestly, you can get well. Like, so you can start getting well tomorrow. Like the decisions that you make today can like get you on the road to feeling better as quickly as tomorrow, even like 10 minutes from now. So I just want to say that. But it took me a really long time to unpack, because I think I had a hard time working through all the nocebos that I did get through the being ill for so long, and all of the diagnoses that I got from the medical profession. And I think all of the amount of time I spent hearing that I could never get well and that I was only going to get worse. So it took me forever to figure it out. And it's kind of embarrassing it took so long, but it is what it is. And some days I feel sad, like, oh my gosh, at 34 years, like a lot of your listeners aren't even 34 years old. And I think that's why I wanted to come on, is like, I know with 100% certainty that everyone can get well if they do certain things. Like there's just no question in my mind. If you actually do them, you will 100% get well. There's no question.
Hey guys, a quick interruption. So just so you know, 99% of the recovery information that I share is available for free online in various formats. I send out weekly emails, I post regularly on Instagram, and I have hundreds of videos here on this channel, all packed with valuable insights. It's accessible to everyone. However, if you'd prefer to save yourself some digging, you might be interested in my online course, Brain Retraining 101 for ME/CFS and Long COVID Recovery. It delivers everything that you need to know in bite-sized pieces, so you can spend just a few minutes each day gaining tools to propel you forward on your journey. The course is self-paced, so no pressure, and includes online support spaces, including group coaching calls with myself and with other coaches. You will learn the brain science behind recovery and gain the best tools for brain retraining and nervous system regulation, all while receiving support from our incredible community. Oh my goodness, you're going to love them. They are there. They truly get it. And every week they are cheering you on. If you are ready to supercharge your recovery, you can check out the link in this video's description to join or to learn more. And I look forward to meeting you in one of our live group coaching calls.
So because we are a system, like what we're thinking matters. And because we are a system, what we do with our bodies matters. So we need clean inputs coming in always. Like we're not going to get well if like all we eat is sugar. Like that makes zero sense, right? Like if you eliminate 4 food groups or 3 food groups and you just want to eat one food group, that's probably not what your body needs, right? Like, and it's not about it finding a special diet or doing a supplement. Just like use your head and like common sense, like eat well. Like try to eat plants, try to eat some protein, try to eat like shut the outside of periphery of the at the grocery store, get some sleep, maybe mind your mind, maybe do like a little meditation. Don't believe everything you think. Don't overthink. If you've got an anxiety issue, because boy, we know that being chronically ill is going to fuel anxiety like nothing else. We're afraid of our symptoms. We're afraid of getting worse. We're afraid of getting sick. Like, it's horrible. Attend to your anxiety, right? Like, start managing your mind and your thinking. Like, start getting rid of the unhelpful thinking. Don't ruminate, don't perseverate. Like, seek out some joy, seek out some pleasurable activity. Don't wait to feel better to start living your life. Start living your life so that you can start to feel better. Take baby steps so that you don't freak your system out, so that you don't scare yourself so much that you have this huge symptom crash. Or if you have a symptom crash, don't panic, don't freak out. Take a little space. Say, what do I need right now? Maybe I just need a day off and I need to binge some Netflix or call a dear friend or cuddle with my puppy or walk quietly through the woods. But have hope. Can't do this without any hope. And watch these recovery stories. I watch them like daily for a while just to instill hope into my system. Do some bottom up somatic regulation processes, meaning like, take some deep breaths, do some grounding practices. The more that we stay in the present moment, the less we're ruminating and persevering in our head. So go for awe walks. If all you can do is like sit on your back porch, like you're so sick you can't do anything else, notice what the sounds of the birds are making, or the wind on your face, or your bottom sitting on the step. Like, stay present, because when you're present, you're not ruminating and you're not scaring yourself. You're just enjoying. Feel your feelings, right? Like, if we're repressing our feelings, then it takes a lot of energy to keep that stuff down. It's like trying to keep a beach ball down, and it's going to like pop up. It's going to pop up, and it takes a lot of energy. And I think like turning towards our feelings, whether it's anxiety, despair, rage, guilt, whatever, turning towards and letting ourselves have them without running the story over and over and over again, that's different. That's drowning in the story. But feeling this feelings from a physical perspective only, like noticing, okay, I have a little anxiety, there's a little flutteriness in my chest, my stomach is a little rumbly, my shoulders are a little up by my ears, and just letting ourselves be with our physicality is another way to come into the present moment and allow our feelings to be. But manufacturing the story that created them in the first place isn't the same thing. So one is dangerous, one is healing, if that makes any sense. Like, one will keep a step and one won't. And one of the things that you talked about in your book, Raelan, is you took baby steps back into activity in your life, and that really worked for you. You were like, look, done with the push-pull crash cycle. I'm just gonna be like, okay, I can exercise for a minute today, and that's all I can do, but I know I can do that. And so what that meant to me, and the way that I look at it now, is that you had confidence that what you were setting out to do was going to work for you, and that even if you did have a little flare or a little setback, it wasn't going to be so big that you couldn't manage it. And one of the things that I will say that is kind of a little different from that approach, and different from sort of the graded exposure kind of approach that many recovery programs have, is I don't think that it necessarily matters as much about how much or how little. What really matters, I think, is how confident we feel in what it is that we're doing. And so, like, for me, like, Sarna would have been the first person to say, get out there and live your life. Quit going to PT, quit taking all those meds, get rid of your special sleeping pillow and your lumbar support from your spine. Your car's not hurting you, your chair's not hurting you. Like, go live your life. And what we know with people with chronic fatigue syndrome is that, some of the early recommendations around CBT, around graded exercise, didn't work for them. And it really caused some damage for some people. And I would speculate that it's possible that the reason that didn't work is because they were scared, and it didn't feel right to them. And I think it's really important to figure out what feels right to each and every one of us. And so if all you can feel confident about doing is, 1 minute, and then next week, another minute or whatever. Like if that's what feels great to you, then do it. But for me, there was a Sarno follower named Stephen Ozanich, and I don't think you've ever interviewed him, but he's written some books, and he inspired the heck out of me in his recovery story. And he has this golf ball story in his book, The Great Pain Deception. And this guy was racked with back pain. He's crawling around his house, couldn't get up. And he decided that he was going to follow Sarno's words to the team. He went out to the driving range and hit like 1,000 golf balls or something. And he would just crawl back to his car and he'd be like, I know that golf isn't dangerous and I know this isn't hurting me. And I am going to keep doing this until I extinguish this pain. And honestly, eventually he was able to do that, but he was just like in so much pain while he did it. And so I think there's a whole continuum of how we tackle this, but he was confident he was going to get there. And so for me, once I started to have some basic ability to work with my symptoms, and learning how to work with your symptoms is really critical. Like we don't want to go into panic. We need to know how to respond. I was like, all right, I'm going to go hiking in the mountains and I'm going to go trekking. And this is what I want to do. And for 30 years, I've been sick and just laying in my freaking bed, wishing that I was in the mountains, and I'm going to go. And I still had, so I would like walk all day and I have symptoms all day and my system's freaking out and I have symptoms all night. And I tell myself, my body is designed for walking and walking is good for me. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with this. And, I'm going to get well. And it was a brutal 16 days, but on day 17, I was climbing down a mountain. I was dropping from 16,000 feet to 15,500. And all of a sudden I thought, oh my gosh, I did not have any pain that last 500 feet. And I always have pain going downhill, always. And it was game over from there. So I've been able to completely take my life back. I backpacked by myself 350 miles on the Colorado Trail last summer. I walked a couple hundred miles through the Himalaya over 17,000 foot passes in the last 2 years. I'm completely chronic symptom free. And that is not to say that I don't get a thing from my body. Like I do. I'm human. I'm sensitive. I feel things in my body. I get stuff like, and it'll come creeping in. I'll be like, oh, what are you doing here? What are you trying to tell me? What am I not listening to? What do I need to attend to? And I don't get scared and I invite it along and it does. And I don't get solid about it and it doesn't set up camp and then it goes away.
Yeah. For years, I struggled to define full recovery and I now understand it and see it as I no longer experience chronic symptoms because we're always going to have symptoms, but now you understand what they are. You don't fear them. You have the tools to ensure they don't stick around. Yeah. So, which is right there, that sentence I wish someone would have told me 5 years ago, because it's very confusing in the beginning because you think, oh, I have a symptom. Is it back? Is it coming back? Am I sick again? Yeah. And then the fear comes back and we know what spiral that whole, begins. So yeah. I think too, you're talking about the recovery. And when I look back at the way that I did my recovery and, my book, and people are very kind about my book. I had very limited understanding when I wrote it about how I actually recovered. Any expertise or insights I have about recovery didn't come from my journey of recovery. It came, in the years since of talking to people like yourself and all the research that I've done. But I did a video recently that said, it was like, I am a cautionary tale. Like, don't do the Raelan. Like that, it took way longer than it should have. So I think you explained this also incredibly well. And it helps us understand, at least in some cases, why some people can start incorporating more activity quite quickly and others, it takes quite a bit longer. And also there's things about the brain, like we know that because it's all around neuroplasticity and there are factors that impact how neuroplastic your brain is, depending on, lots of different factors. But yeah, that message around how safe, how confident you are in what you're doing, that I think is brilliant.
Oh, thank you. The other thing I want to say too, so I'm a somatic psychotherapist and I've been a licensed professional counselor for almost like 40 years. And what I will say is that one thing we don't talk about much in this community is self-compassion and trauma. And I just want to say that like many of the people that have these chronic mind body symptoms have a pretty significant trauma history. And trauma in itself, an adverse childhood experiences, what we know is that that revs up our nervous system. Like it keeps us perpetually looking for threat. And if we don't like do the work to sort of refile those traumas in our brain so that they're not like sort of running like bad background music in the back, they're going to keep our system running a little hot or running revved. And that is another way to calm the nervous system. And similarly, we need to be going big and hard on self-compassion, like to be in pain, to be suffering, being sick and tired and fatigued and have left our society and being invisible, like not being able to do the things that other people can do, not being able to join in the fun, missing out. It is so hard and so painful. And, I spent a lot of years feeling really sorry for myself, but I didn't spend a lot of years going, oh, Nicole, I am so very sorry that happened to you. I am so sorry that you are suffering so much, and that must be really hard. And I think that those two things are really important, and that's not something we're going to be able to fix with brain retraining, and that's not something we're going to be able to fix by journaling about our feelings. And sometimes we need a little extra help on this recovery journey to get those traumas and to lay them to rest.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, especially since so many of us, at least the people I interview and myself, tend to, at least at times, be very critical. So we can listen to these interviews and think, oh, I'm not believing in it enough. I'm doing something wrong, when there's so many complicated things going on and so many reasons why your journey is going to take as long as it takes, and you're doing the best you can and you will get there and it's okay. And that chronic self-comparisons can be so unhelpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just need to keep chipping away at it and remember that one message that we hear today, that today might not be the time for that message. And so, maybe that's something we're going to be able to resurrect in 4 months, when we're more ready to hear it or feel it or do it. And there's so much great support out there on your channel and, other people's channels who are in this field, and it's evidence-based. We know it works, and we just have to keep going. We have to know how to respond to symptoms. We have to make sure that we've got enough joy in our diet, and that's not toxic positivity. It's just not staying negative 24/7. We need social relationships. Our brains need to be able to entrain with other people. We need to have beauty. We need to have things that make us want to get up in the morning and do it again, because recovery's really hard. And I just thank people like you for providing so many different kinds of resources for people, because obviously everyone's journey is completely unique. What works for one isn't going to work for another, and I think that's why it's really important for us to immerse ourselves in the different ways that we can tackle this and untangle this knot of illness.
And I love the message that so many people say that I interview, that just you can start where you are and work with what you've got. If you can't move, if you're bedbound, that people talk about how they just really enjoy the taste of that orange they're eating, or they used to love to dance. So they're like, I'm going to do some finger dancing. Or we were saying get out in nature. But studies have shown us that just listening to soundtracks of birds singing and, of nature does amazing things for our nervous system. There's so many things that you can do just from where you are, baby steps. And even for human connection, we know this is really important. But people find this isn't going to replace all human connection, but one woman I interviewed, recommends that all of her clients get a teddy bear just to practice that sort of that nurturing and co-regulation. Or there's different levels of social connection. There's people I follow on YouTube, and social media that I feel like they're my friends. I've never met them. And no, that's not going to replace all the community that I need in my life, but it is a level of something if I tune into them every day, or having chats with people online. Of course, we want real in-person human interaction as much as possible too, but just I hope people don't feel like there's nothing I can do right now. Like none of this applies to me. And it's starting with those small things, and you can start to bounce out and get to those bigger things.
That's absolutely right. And I love your list. And I just wanted to add too, another thing that was really helpful for me in my journey was mental rehearsal. And we don't talk a lot about that either. And it's imagining ourselves doing the things that we want to be able to do someday. So what if we are bedbound? We can be imagining ourselves walking through the mountains and climbing to the top and see ourselves doing that successfully. And we're actually, building musculature and cells that will later support that. The body doesn't really know the difference between what we imagine and what we're actually doing. And so we should be putting ourselves in a state of mind that sees us in our possibility as opposed to in our illness as often as we can to create the way.
So you've shared so many things. So I don't know if there's something in addition to all of this that you would say, but you said there are things that you can do that tomorrow you can feel a little tiny bit better. So for people listening, watching, what are some of those things in addition to what you've said that they could do now to get them going?
Thank you. That's a great question. So a couple things. One is I would say get really clean and clear about your yeses and your nos. So make sure that you're endeavoring not to say yes to anything you don't want to say yes to. Dread, resentment is a huge driver of symptoms and threat to our system. And similarly, we should be saying no to the things we, don't want to do and yes to things we really want to do. And I think getting clean and clear with our boundaries is really, really important and will put us a long way on recovery. And then I guess I would throw out some bottom up strategies for regulating the nervous system. So some things that we can do. So our breathing, belly breathing. What we know is that if we're actually breathing air into our abdomen instead of our chest, that we are calming our nervous system. So there's some really great techniques that have us extend our exhale longer than our inhale to move us from our sympathetic fight or flight system into our rest and digest parasympathetic system. So one of my favorite techniques, actually, the Veterans Administration uses this breathing technique to help people with PTSD, and it's called box breathing. And what I love about it is that it's so simple, it's impossible to forget, and it's symmetrical. So basically what we're doing is we're inhaling for a count of 4, we're holding our breath for a count of 4, we're exhaling for a count of 4, and we're pausing for a count of 4. So you want to try it one time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. We'll all do it together.
Okay.
Okay.
I love this one. If I have something square in my room, a picture on the wall or something, I breathe along the edges of it to help me.
That sounds great.
Stay on track. Okay.
Yeah, sounds great.
Walk us through.
So just really quick, we're going to inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, pause for 4.
Okay. Let's everybody do it together.
Okay. Ready? Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, pause, 2, 3, 4. And you would do that again and again. And I counted pretty fast because if we start to get air starved, we can actually make ourselves anxious. So you want to count fast enough so that you're not panicking that you're not going to get enough air. And as you practice it over time, you'll find that you can count slower and slower and slower. So that's one thing. The other thing that I like to do is just gentle tapping. And so what we can do is cross our thumbs like this, and we just put them on our chest and we just go back and forth. And we'll just tap. And what you'll notice is that maybe eventually you'll sigh or you'll swallow or you'll feel relaxed. And what bilateral movement does is it's super calming for the nervous system. So if you're a knitter or a needle pointer or you like to walk gently, that's all really calming for our nervous system. And yeah, I think I'll leave us leave us with those things.
That is excellent. Thank you so much. I love that there are so many small, simple things. Like even that one box breath that we did together, I felt better after. My shoulders felt about an inch lower. And I just, oh, it's been really helpful. I love doing all these interviews because I learned so much and I can just pull out these little things in the moment that really just do calm me and bring me back to, yes, yeah, helpful stuff. All right, Nicole, this has been incredible. We have learned so much from you. If people watching, listening, if they wanted to like reach you or learn more, is there a way that they can do that?
Yeah, Raelan, thanks so much for having me. Like this has been an absolute joy. And gosh, I really hope it's been helpful. Like that's what I really hope is like I just don't want anyone in our community to spend one more day suffering than they have to. Because I feel like I kind of lost my whole adult life to this illness or this process. And so I welcome anyone to reach out to me. I'll send you my email and my phone number. I'm a counselor, a professional counselor and a somatic psychotherapist, but I also do mind body coaching. And if you don't have to reach out to employ me, you can just reach out because you want to share a story or ask a question. And I'm happy to send you like resources and yeah, share in any way that I can to help you get to where you're trying to get to.
Incredible. And of course, all of this will be linked in the description. So people watching, listening, take a moment and see what's there. Obviously, Nicole has a wealth of information and insight from all of her years and research and how far she's come. This is incredible. I'm also going to link here a playlist that I put together, and it's for people who recover later in life, for people who were unwell for decades, because that's when it can feel especially hopeless. I know, and it hits home because my mother was unwell for so long and never did recover. And there are so many people that after decades, they find their puzzle pieces and they're back. So there's never a point when it's too late, where you're too far gone, where your symptoms are too bad, where your doctors have told you too many diagnoses that there's no hope for you. That is not the case. Many more incredible stories like Nicole's. So I invite you to check them out. Thank you so much, Nicole, for being here. This was absolutely pure gold. I appreciate you so much.
Well, Raelan, I appreciate you more than I could ever tell you. Thank you for all that you do and for all that you've given me.
And thank you to our listeners and watchers as well. And I hope to see you in one of these other interviews in the playlist. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.